therefore, Mnangagwa of ZANU-PF party is declared duly elected President of the Republic of Zimbabwe.
Of an election that poll observers from across the board, all observer missions without exception, have rightly described as an election that is so damaged in reputation and that is so fraudulent in characterization, that falls short beneath the requirements of the Zimbabwean Constitution, the electoral laws, and the guidelines of our regional, continental, and global bodies. However, despite all these obstacles and impediments, these abuses, this election also unleashed a wonderful moment, a surge in resilience and hope from you, the Zimbabwean people. Some of you walked for dozens of kilometers. Some of you waited outside the polling stations for dozens of hours, and often without food or water. Some of you braved illegal intimidation and threats that no free person should have been subjected to or could endure. I also want to particularly note that one Zimbabwean died in the queue as he waited to vote in Warren Park. May his soul rest in peace. I honor that legend. It must never happen in a proper democracy that a person would perish on account of wishing and wanting to exercise their vote. But guess what? You endured, particularly in Harare, in Bulawayo, and in Manicaland, areas and regions that are perceived to be our strongholds. Voting was suppressed. They didn't want you to vote. In the rural areas where they were voting, they were forcing them and intimidating them, commanding them to vote for ZANU-PF or face death. That command voting is illegal. That command voting shall be challenged. I can tell you of Nyanga North, where you had over 3,500 assisted voters. That has never happened. ZANU-PF had their own primary elections. There was not a single assisted voter in that primary election. And guess what? 5,000 people voted. Now, over 15,000 people voting, but 3,500 assisted voters. Why are they assisted voters? Because they were forced to say, go and tell those who are conducting the polling that you are not able to read or write and you can't vote for yourself, so that we vote for you, we don't trust you. Those votes are votes that would ordinarily have gone to the alternative. Must say in a nutshell, what I've said, ladies and gentlemen, the election process in Zimbabwe was shamelessly flawed, violated the Constitution of Zimbabwe, as well as the electoral laws of our republic. There was therefore an illegality and criminality in the conduct of ZEC and all the polling officers and officials that were involved. The election process was fraught with unprecedented illegalities, irregularities, and encyclopedic opaqueness and forces of darkness, particularly FAS, which has become a spooky, ghosty, and shadowy organization that takes instructions from those spooky headquarters. The election process itself fell far short of the SADC guidelines on elections and international electoral guidelines. And you know that this was a pronouncement of the observer missions, and we concur with that observation. Notwithstanding all this, you voted for a president of your choice. You voted for your representatives of your choice at parliamentary level and at council level. And I want to thank you and congratulate you for that resilience, particularly across the whole country, especially in the urban areas and in the rural areas. There are people who are so courageous. They stood and they were able to stand toe-to-toe to the intimidation of FAS and other institutions like ZANU-PF, the terrorist organization, to be able to cast their votes. It was like a war zone. It was like a situation where they have to brave it, particularly in circumstances of intimidation and terror. Let me say that the Electoral Board ZEC, regrettably and once again, failed to perform its constitutional mandate by not announcing the correct and the accurate results. Notwithstanding the flaws of the election, genuine results should have been announced. And we have the genuine result because we are working on the V11. But they used the V23, and the result from the V23 is not tallying with the results on the V11, particularly for the president. showing you that it was a doctored, it was an iron data configured by FAS, because the results from the polling station were transmitted to the FAS headquarters via the presiding officer. And this is common cause. And that became our biggest problem. And I've listened, I've watched. Some people are saying, well, there are no V11s. V11s are there. We deployed across the whole country. We were sufficiently represented, even though some of our polling agents were chased away, intimidated, and violated, particularly in Mashonaland Central and Mashonaland East, because those are terror zones where people don't exercise their vote. In fact, in Mashonaland Central, I was getting testimonies that people were saying, we did not vote. It was not an election. It was a coercion. So we are still waiting for an election. This one, we're just coerced to vote for ZANU.
Like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content on African Utopia. Together, we rise.